Hey everybody, Kim here with Little Biz Resources, and today we're going to be talking about Etsy. Specifically, is selling on Etsy the right marketplace for you? Plus, what is a marketplace? So let's talk about that first. According to Forbes, an online marketplace is a website or app that facilitates shopping from many different sources. So this is different than like a solo seller website like Joann.com. That's a craft store, so you might go in there physically, but they also have an online entity, online website where they sell their products. So it would be the same thing as like if you were to open your own store and your own hosting, that's not a marketplace, right? So a marketplace has to have a lot of different sellers on it. Okay. So when you buy on a marketplace like Amazon, as an example, that's a marketplace. You could be buying from Amazon directly, or you could be buying from third-party sellers that sell on that marketplace. There's a lot of different types of sellers on there. Now, Etsy, as far as I know, they don't sell their own products, at least not yet. So when you buy on Etsy, you are buying from a third-party seller. That's a little bit different from Amazon. It's a little bit different from Walmart. Now, eBay, I think, is all third-party sellers as well. So you can see these are big marketplaces that you've probably heard of before. But that's different than, say, just an e-commerce shop in general, right? All right, so why Etsy? Let's take a look at some Etsy stats. All right, Etsy buyer statistics. This is really interesting to me because you can look back, and I've been on Etsy since like 2013. Not with my current shop, but with my other shop that is not really functioning that well right now because it's EP Laser, and as many of you know, EP Laser is in transition right now after my grandpa died. So in 2019 to 2020, you can see this huge jump, and that's because in 2020, as many of you remember, and we are still suffering from the pandemic and the shutdowns and having to buy online. So that made a huge difference on Etsy. And another great thing about that is that, if you think about this, Etsy primarily is local sellers, and we'll look at that in a minute. But because of that, you can see that there was a huge need for getting products locally in 2020. And I don't think this shift is going to change much. I don't think we're going to double. Again, I don't think this is 81.9 million buyers in 2020 versus 46.35 million in 2019, right? I think we're going to still see high numbers like that 81.9 million. It's still going to go up, or should go up, but I don't think we're going to see a jump as big as we did from 2019 to 2020. So Etsy revenue statistics, again, big jump from 2019 to 2020. This is in millions of US dollars, right? So 2019, $818 million. 2020, $1,725 million equals $1.7 billion. Huge increase, massive amount of money going through Etsy. They are raking in a lot of money there, right? So that is a good sign. Now, Etsy's seller statistics, you can also see a jump in sellers on Etsy, right? From 2019 to 2020, big jump again. And you can see it's been steadily increasing. Now, the number of sellers on Etsy is still a lot smaller than a platform like Amazon. But Amazon also has a lot more buyers too. So you can see here, this is Etsy sellers in thousands. So 4,000 thousands, what is that? 4 million then? Yeah, let's just go with that. So there are a lot of sellers on Etsy as well. So types of shops that do well on Etsy. Now, Etsy shops are primarily, and they need to be, this is from Etsy itself, they should be handmade, vintage, or crafty supply. I put crafty supply. It's supposed to be craft supply, but it's crafty supplies, right? It doesn't have to be craft specific, but they do have a definition of that. So it should be something crafty related. Handmade does not necessarily mean made by hand, even though that's like kind of the definition, right? Now, Etsy defines handmade as items that are made and or designed by you, the seller. So let's take a look at some of the top selling shops. And this is in quantity, and it does not qualify profit. They don't get that information. So let's just look at the top selling shops on Etsy. This is Marketplace Pulse, which is its own site. I don't really know much about it. I just found it when I did a Google search. And this is the top Etsy shops based on sales during the 30 days. So this is the top 100, okay? Now, my sister and I both have shops in the top 1% and 2%, but the top 1% of shops still have like tens of thousands of shops in it, right? So you're not going to see us in the top 100 because we're not. We just don't make that many sales. But I'm going to tell you now that you'll see here the categories, and I want you to pay attention to this because first of all, I am surprised to see that there's a jewelry one here. In fact, we should probably take a look at that shop because I am surprised to see that as a number 2 shop. I mean, I doubt these are handmade, first of all. I mean, I know they say that, but there's probably an element of mass production here. And again, that's as long as you design it, you can have it mass produced. So I don't know a lot about this, but this is interesting. I wanted to make sure it was really a jewelry shop. So that's kind of cool. We are coming up to the holidays, so that could play a factor in it. This number 1 shop, Bead Boat One, has been number 1 many, many, many times, and they continue to be, right? They are, looks like they're in Dallas, Texas, so centrally located, and they have supplies. They're a craft supply store, and you can see a lot of different things here, and that's actually a really good price. So they have good pricing on here, good quality items, it looks like. Let's scroll back up for a second. Take a look at, they've got, over 1 million sales. Like I said, they are consistently on the number 1 spot. They have 5 stars, and it looks like, everything is they look like they're a professional store here. So this is, in fact, I think I favorited them. Yep, they have some stuff in there I like. All right, so that is, you can see craft supplies. My sister and I, we're in a craft supplies and tools category, and we're in the top 1% and 2% of stores, right? So you can see here, I'm going to scroll just down. Let's actually count them. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Technically this is 2, but we'll 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36. You can see, get my point here, right? There's probably, 45 or 50. So almost half of the shops in the top 100 are craft supplies and tools. So keep that in mind when you're thinking of what sells well on Etsy, because this was something that, I have another store but I didn't do anything right on it, right? And that was the whole point of it. I never did anything right on it. Will it sell? I don't know. It doesn't matter anymore anyway, because it looks like we're going to be shifting, but here's one that's home and living. So let's look at that one real quick. You saw the one above it is bags and purses. That's kind of nice. This one's another supply. So this is another craft and supply store, essentially. They've got some other stuff mixed in with it, but this is a supply shop. So this is what I get a little bit, the more and more you dive into this, the more and more you see that the supplies tend to be it. And if that's something you're interested in, we will have a video on how you can make your own supplies. Not this type of stuff. Here's another one. Supply one. Did I click on the wrong one? World Incense, Home and Living. I feel like I'm clicking on the wrong ones. Let's look at this one. Bags and purses. I can't believe so many crystals sell. So this is not bags and purses. This is wedding supplies. So another supplies one. So this is, other than this jewelry one, we've got craft and supplies. This one actually is craft and supplies, craft and supplies, craft and supplies. Let's see if this one is craft and supplies. This is masks. I'm surprised they've sold that much stuff. What are they listed as? Sartor masks. Bath and Beauty. That's interesting. So yeah, I mean, at least there's a mask store there, but that's going to be somewhat temporary, hopefully. But you can see if you dive into this, and I do recommend, I'll put a link in the description for this, that you dive into this. And you can see that for the most part, you've got a couple of jewelry ones in here. Let's look at this clothing one and see if it's actually clothing. It is baby clothes, baby supplies. That all works really well on here. Now that looks like more of a print on demand store too. May or may not have been, but toys and games. So you can go through here and see which ones are in the top 100. Now keep in mind, it's the top 100, right? And you can see there's a lot of different ones in here, like the ones, the paper and party supplies. I still consider that craft supplies, but there's like journaling stuff and everything else. So there are digital items in here as well, along with physical items. So those are things that you can think about if you're not sure what you want to sell. Now, if you want to sell something and you're like, hey, I don't see a vintage store in the top 100, that's okay. this is based on number of sales, right? And I'm just kind of looking for vintage as we're talking about this. So if you're like, hey, I wanted to do a vintage shop, let me tell you, depending on how, of course, you acquire your supplies and what your profit margins are, I am sure that there are plenty of profitable vintage shops on here. Most of them also have a local presence of some sort, and that's what there are no vintage on the top 100. And that's kind of what gets them. So let's go ahead and let's move on to the next section real quick. All right, so let's talk Etsy versus your own website. You can make a decision on whether you think that your stuff fits in there. And we will have other stuff that we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about print on demand. We're going to have a whole series on that. And we'll be talking more about, how to get on Etsy and different things, how to build on it. Those are future videos that are coming. So for now, before we dive into that, let's talk about Etsy versus your own website. And this is important because a lot of people think that they need one or the other, and that's not necessarily true. In fact, I would argue that you need both. Even if you're like, hey, I only want my own website, I don't like Etsy for X, Y, and Z. Great, but it's a marketplace. It's just like saying I'm never going to sell on Amazon. You can't never sell on Amazon if you want to be able to expand to that market, because guess what? There are people who only shop on Amazon, just like there are only people who shop on Etsy. So if you can fit into those marketplaces, it's a really good opportunity to get in front of new people. It is difficult to learn each platform. So if you can do well on Etsy, you don't necessarily have to expand to other marketplaces, but marketplaces have their benefits. And that's the same thing that we're going to see right here. So Etsy benefits. You can get started for free. There's no hosting fees. Just use the link in the description. You get 40 free listings. Okay. Etsy has a built-in buyer market, and we're going to describe this more. Faster product testings. Why? Because you get more traffic faster to your listings. You can see if people like it or not. On your own site, you can start on whatever platform you want. So you're not limited to the restrictions of Etsy. You can start on Shopify or WooCommerce or whatever it is that your heart desires, right? But you do have to drive all the traffic, which there are some pros and cons to this, and we'll talk about it. Product testing can take a while to generate enough traffic to draw conclusions. I don't want you to think that this is bad. The other things that you get to do with your own site, which we'll talk about here, is that we get to reach out to our customers the way we want to, right? And in fact, let me go ahead and pull this over for a second. Oops, I moved my phone. Let's pull that over. And that worked out that my little bit of resources on the bottom of this, right? So this is not what I wanted. Knock that off. Knock that off. All right, so we've got, and I'm doing this on my phone, so forgive me if there's, look, already random writings on here. So let's see. I'm not going to bother erasing that stuff because it would just be silly. Okay, so let's talk. So when you're marketing on Etsy, what happens is buyers are searching on Etsy, right? So buyers are searching on Etsy. And so what happens is you have your listing, somebody else's listing, and somebody else's listing. So yours, someone else, and someone else. And if you're in supplies, like a lot of people are, Etsy has a tendency to go, oh, somebody found your listing. Well, check out these other ones as well. And then so the buyer might find your listing and then go and buy somebody else's, right? Whereas on your website, they are not going to do that. They're only going to get your product. And the worst case is your alternate product or an alternate product of yours. It's still yours, right? So the buyer, if they're on your website, the problem is that nobody's going to your website unless they know about it, right? People know about Etsy, so they go to Etsy.com and they do a search on the marketplace. Whereas if they don't know about your website, which most people aren't going to, they're not going to go to whatever your website is, .com. Let's just use Crafty Universe as an example because that's an easy one. So if they go to Crafty Universe and they're like, oh, hey, I'm going to look through this. So let's say they go to Crafty Universe, which we don't have products on there. But let's say they go to Crafty Universe and they're like, oh, look, we want to see that, we want this product. I'm not competing with anybody else. So there are distinct benefits when it comes to that. I think this is the eraser. Nope. That's the eraser. So now the bigger problem is, and this is where I think a lot of people, they have this misconception that, oh, if I build it, they will come, right? That was the old joke for a long time. If you build it, they will come. No. How are they going to find you? If they're going, let's say, oh, Google search. I'm going to switch back over to the pen. So let's say Google search. Well, guess what happens? When they search Google, guess what comes up first? Etsy, Amazon. Oh, stop that. Etsy, Amazon. Lots of the big named e-commerce sites, right? So you're going to have Etsy and Amazon and ads. Do you think your website's going to come up in e-commerce? No, probably not. Not especially not if you're just starting out. It would take years to get to the point where you're on the first page or even the second page. So what tends to happen is that people think, oh, okay, well, I can just list my products and they'll show up in Google. No, maybe if you're paying for it, sure. But if you're not paying for it, let's just say, okay, you're not paying for advertising, then Google's out. So what else? I have my mouse right in the way of that. So what else could you do to be driving traffic? You could be running ads. You could be doing, different free marketing methods or something. And, there's a lot of different things that you could do. So let me erase that. Whatever. There's a lot of different things that you could do to drive traffic to your website. And then, okay, yeah, you're spending all this money. So that's a higher cost up front to get people there. So then you're like, okay, well, if I list on Etsy, though, I could lose people to other listings. It's a possibility. It happens to me all the time. In fact, I will find products that haven't been on the market and I'm the only one selling it, right? I'll track them down from a supplier. I will get it in stock. I will be the only one with the product for 2-3 weeks, right? Then all of a sudden, 15, 20 different people are competing with me and they're undercutting me and I doubt they're making any profit. And I'm going, oh my gosh, this is so annoying. So if I had my own website and my own traffic to my website, it would be great. But here's what happens is that you build your website, nobody shows up, nobody buys, and you're like, oh my gosh, e-commerce is horrible. No. The other alternative is you list it on Etsy, you don't know what you're doing, and nobody buys, and you say this is horrible. So again, we're going to walk through about all of how to work on Etsy altogether. But the general idea is that if you're on the marketplace on Etsy, let's say you get a buyer on here. Why can I not erase? Why can I not erase? That is my erase button. I don't know what's going on. Anyway, I guess we're going to have to just skip this because it's not letting me. So we're going to just cross this out. Okay, so we've got Etsy. Let's say they buy on Etsy. So they buy on Etsy. And the way we do it right now is that once they buy, they get an email inviting them to our list. Now, they're not going to be on our list unless they say yes. So we use something called double opt-in, which is part of email marketing, right? So they get an email that invites them to become our customer. Because what happens is when they buy on Etsy, they are Etsy's customer. But thankfully, at least for now, we still get the ability to communicate with the customer. So we can send them an email and we say, hey, join our list, right? Join our list. And you also, if you're mailing them a physical product, you can also send stuff to them, through in the package and everything else. So then if they say yes, so the ones that say yes, then they're on our list. And we can then drive them back to our website, or more recently, we did a video on, we actually did a live on this, and it was an app. So this app can actually supplement. You don't have to have your own website. You could just have the app. And what's nice about the app is you can do push notifications straight onto their phone, right? So these are your hardcore followers that really want your deals and stuff, right? So you can do push notifications. You can also email them. You can ask them to give you your SMS. So these are things you cannot do with Etsy. Right now, Etsy does do push notifications to people, but it's not for your store. It's for Etsy. So this is why the marketing behind a marketplace versus your website are two completely different things. And if we can get anything to erase, that's probably why I was on the wrong one. So we're going to erase some of this stuff. Now, let's say that you are driving marketing and you're like, hey, I don't have a website, but I want to drive it back to my own my own, I want to drive it to my Etsy listings. Now this is the problem that we've been having, is that, there, look, I did it. Woo, can figure things out. Is that when you, let's say you have a Pinterest pin, right? And you pin, anybody pins, it doesn't have to be you. There are some things that you can do. We'll talk about that when we get to videos about this. But let's say you do a Pinterest pin to Etsy and you do a Pinterest pin to your website. And when it's your website, it's your listing, right? Now, even though you're sending them on Etsy to your listing, they have recommendations above it, and then it's your listing. Now, again, there are a couple of tricks that you can do to get around that. If you're the one creating the pin, if you're the one creating the post on Facebook, whatever it is, but that's the problem, is that when you're marketing for your listings on Etsy, you are marketing for Etsy, not for you. Here, you are only marketing for you, right? So for you. And so there's value in this, but it is really, really, really hard to get started these days with free marketing. So unless you have a pretty hefty marketing budget and enough profits built in and you already have a solid business going, it is going to be difficult to get up and running with your own website and just ads, right? Because there's a lot of testing that goes into that. So let's go ahead and hop out of this now. I'll go ahead and minimize that and say, just understand that there are benefits to both. Now, we, of course, are really leaning towards an app. It just really depends on your store. And we encourage you to ask questions if you think that it may or may not be a fit, and watch that video. It's a long one, but it's worth the exploration to see if it would be worth it for your site. So now we've gone over all of these different elements and stuff, and this is just an overview. So now we need to talk about the next steps. First of all, if you're ready to get started on Etsy, click the link in the description. You can sign up for Etsy and get 40 free listings. This only works on new shops. We have another video, right? That's the next video we're releasing. It shows you how to claim the listings. It gives you kind of the details. It's short. It's like 3 minutes, right? 3 or 4 minutes, I think. So just go through that and it'll help kind of ease any questions you have. The link will also be in the description of that video as well. In fact, we'll have 2 different links, one in each video, one for my shop and one for my sister's shop, just because to kind of spread the love, right? Because we actually, when you sign up through our link, we actually get some listings as well too, which helps us because whenever you sell something, it renews the listing. Again, we'll talk about that more in future videos if you're not familiar with it. I encourage you to ask questions. You know, you can hop into Little Biz Resources Facebook group. The link will be in the description. Surprise, surprise. You can ask on this video. If you're like, hey, I don't go to Facebook. I've deleted Facebook, whatever it is, ask on the video then. Or if you want to ask live, we do a live Q&A every Thursday here on this channel, right? So we do kind of an overview. We're doing a project that we're working on till the end of the year, and we're going to be here live on YouTube on Thursdays. It's Thursday evenings. It is at 7:30 Mountain Time. So that is 6:30 Pacific, 9:30 Eastern, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time, right? So I do encourage you to ask questions. So that'll help guide us in what we need to, provide information on. And I would ask you, if you liked this content, please hit the like button and help me spread the content to more people. And I really do thank you for watching and for liking and for sharing this with anybody that you know, and just for all around being on our channel. We'd love to have you and see you more. And we've got a lot of different content coming out, so feel free to watch our channel video. If it's not out, sorry, I'm working on it still. And we are going to have a schedule up in the banner. Well, it should be there now. So check the description, or check the schedule to see what days the videos come out that you're interested in and what other content we have. So thank you again, and I hope you have a great day. Thanks.